Alright, this is a video Bob from Bob's Prop Shop, and we finally have made it to the customer's house. This is Martin, the new owner of build number 11, and I think this is our best time machine to date. So now you're getting your first chance to check this thing out. I mean, it's been to Marty McFly's house, it's been to the Twin Pines Mall, it's been to Universal Studios, Claudia Wells has been in this car, Christopher Lloyd has signed this car. I mean, and it's got some of our most epic work on it. So, and also you're familiar with owning movie cars. You know, you own the Screen Use Christine.
Yes.
And then you previously owned one of the Terminator bikes as well. So I think this is probably the pinnacle of the collection. So take a look at it. Tell me what you think.
I think it's outstanding. I've actually been losing sleep thinking about it for the last few months. That I was thinking about the car, and then I looked at the work that you did on car A, and was just basically looking at the two, and this is just amazing. I don't know how many people are probably going to tell me, how in the world did you get a hold of the car from Universal Studios? And of course, I'm going to have to tell them it's one of Bob's cars, and it's one of the best ones I've ever seen. So
I love this thing. The interior that we did on this, the way the bulkhead and the rear window is set up, of course has all of the functional props in it like we normally put in. This flux capacitor is like on the money. Put in new leather interior, new headliners. All the wiring in here is really good. One of the things I love most about this car is how quiet everything fits together. Because when we put the interior bulkhead and the rear window section together, I put a 1-inch thick piece of foam and then rubber seal around it and bolted it together. So normally in a lot of my time machines, even if you watch some of the videos, you'll hear the bulkhead and things rattling around. In this car, you could literally tow the car with this bulkhead. You get it. Wow. I mean, it's in there tight, and it's a good driving car, and it has a lot of torque. Tripped over this plutonium case.
Okay.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, handle with care.
Handle with care. Dangerous. You're not going to need that anymore because this particular car runs on Mr. Fusion, of course. I love the way the back deck is done on this thing. We've got details on here that I normally don't put on a lot of my cars. I mean, we've got the real Sikorsky helicopter silicone tube back here. This ammo box isn't as large as it normally is. Normally it's a little bit bigger, but one of the problems with the bigger one is you can't open the rear deck all the way. And what they would have to do is just take the whole thing off. So a slight modification that most people won't notice, but now a simple lift, and you can just raise this and access your engine as normal, put a prop rod under there, and it makes it really easy. Which, let's face it, it's a Delorean, you got to get to the engine once in a while. But, the welding on all this is just like it should be. We've made some other simple modifications that, again, no one would notice. Normally, this hooks up underneath and mounts onto it kind of rests onto the taillights, but we've kind of shaved it off. Because otherwise you'd have to take this whole contraption off. That's the way it was on the Auction Kings car, number 6, which was, much more screen accurate. But screen accurate doesn't always mean it's better. Yeah. In the screen accurate car, the entire rear bulkhead is wide open. Ooh, that shelf you see there isn't there. You can see right down onto the inside of the car. So the way this was put together, we created this like L bracket shape shelf that mounts in here, and then you can kind of see where we built this bracket that holds it down. It's been siliconed, and then there's a rubber gasket also. Very nice. So we used a silver silicone. I doubt you're going to be taking it out in the rain and everything. No. But what this does help is it keeps the heat or the engine gases from coming in. Speaking of engine gases, something else we did that's very much like the way they did it in the film is we rerouted the exhaust here to come out the side rather than out the back. We put ours a little bit more forward. We noticed on the Screen Used A car, it actually just comes straight out and kind of pokes out right about here. But we wanted it to be a little bit more profiled, so it kind of S's out this way. So it's more out of the way.
You wanted it to be practical, so if I want to
I mean, the car has to be usable. The one in the movie was just, they only needed it for 2 weeks. This thing is going to last a lifetime. These are solid turned aluminum rods. A lot of the parts in here are made out of resin, but it's a epoxy resin that's stronger than steel. So you're not going to have to, you can take a blowtorch to it, it's not going to melt. It'll last just as long as any other part. And some of the resin parts we replicated, I'm pretty impressed with, like this tube up here. You can't get these anymore, they just simply don't exist. But this is actually plastic.
I would never
Even
have
this,
known that
it
was
looks
plastic.
like real tape, the real hose, this is plastic.
Wow.
And then we did a painting method that makes it look anodized, because we cast it in aluminum powder and then painted it with a translucent blue paint. Just little things like that that we've done. You know, this is all metal. This is LED lighting. We do the LED lighting in a way that, like the original neon on the A car would be right in the middle here, which they didn't put the neon back on the Scream's car for some reason. But I do it this way because you want the light to cast out, and probably on camera this might have a little bit more of a blue look depending on how it reads. But just like in the film, they used a white high temperature light like this, and then on film it appeared blue, and then ILM added in some things. So that's pretty much it for the exterior. And like I said, on the inside, some other things we did to make it a little bit more practical, as I was pointing out earlier, the drive switch and power box has been pushed back a few inches. Normally it would be more forward, closer to the shifter, but you know, it was part of the script. The whole idea in the script was as he was shifting, he accidentally kept knocking that handle, turning it on. That's not practical. So that's, I guess, an inaccuracy, but something we've done to make it more livable. We pushed that back. There's 2 batteries in this car. There's one behind each seat, which is more than enough to run all these lights. On some of our cars, we put in, you know, more batteries up front, which you can do. So later on, if you decide you want to do that, you can. But it's just as easy to just carry a little float charger with you, like a little 5-amp charger, and you can plug it in wherever you go, and these lights will last a good long time. And of course this, as you've seen in many of the other videos, it has our time event feature where you press the button, the speedometer goes up to 88 miles an hour, the times change, the needles move, everything happens. The speedometer is operated by GPS, gives you the real-time speed of the car. And what's crazy about that is when you actually hit 88 miles an hour, it will actually trigger all of the things in the car. The needles will move, and the spectrum analyzer goes full, and the dates change. It's crazy. You can really actually live out that fantasy listening to the music and the theme music. The only problem is it's kind of anticlimactic. You don't go into a ball of flames and you don't go through time. I'm still working on that, and when I get that down. Something else we did here to the flux capacitor, maybe come around this way, was this car features the time dispersal mode, which is just crazy bright. You can see how that appears on camera. And, you know, like, take the camera around to the front, actually. So you'll see that, so when right when he's going through time, when this thing pops, is that crazy? There's 144 super bright LEDs in there to make that happen. Looks really, really cool. There's also some fog lights out the back. You can get a shot of that. Those help a lot when you're packing up, by the way. Or if you get a tailgate or somebody tailgate you, you can just flip those on.
Yeah, they won't know what's going on. They're going to see those lights and go,
It just adds a touch of flavor, you know, when you're displaying the car. You can take a fog machine, maybe just put it under the car and let the fog just bellow up out of there. And that's a much cheaper alternative than my normal fog machine kit that I can put in. You can see a lot of the details in here. I mean, we really spared no time or expense on the details. All of the colored wires added in, you know, this hose, you know, the way these terminal blocks are all connected. Not all of these hoses and wires and things are 100% screen accurate. We have to deal with whatever we can find and also stay within budget. I'll keep the budget on this one confidential, but let me just tell you, it was more than reasonable. I mean, much less than it would cost you to go buy like a new Cadillac.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have nearly as much fun in an Escalade as you would in this car.
Nope.
No one's going to notice you.
You're going to be a toaster on wheels in an Escalade.
That's right. So, real proud of this car, and I worked with you for many months on this, you know, daily.
And I really appreciate that. Yeah, you actually, you know, I made a commitment, and you worked with me with my budget, and as you know, as long as when it was ready to go, I was ready to rock, and it rolled right up, and there it is.
Plus, I kept him in contact with emails, photos,
And photos.
photos right from my
photographs.
phone.
Oh my
and then
gosh.
the 24-hour webcam we have in
Yep.
the shop. You like watching that?
I like watching that, and
Even watching the cat.
Yep, the cat was awesome. I love the picture of the cat staring at the time circuits. I'm sure that picture will forever live on in the world of the internet.
Well, being that this car is out on the West Coast, I know it's going to get seen by a lot of people. And I'm glad that you got it, because I know that you have a passion for the car. That's important for me. I hate it when these cars get bought for me and then they just get tucked away in somebody's collection. I like that this is your crown jewel of your collection. You're going to take it out and show it off to people. So if you're out in the West Coast LA area and you go to a lot of car shows, I'm sure you'll see this car displayed and get the chance to meet Martin. Maybe you'll have the Christine car out?
Yeah, Christine will be there, and the Delorean Time Machine will be there, and I'll tell you, when my 4-year-old son was, finally, I allowed him to watch the movie, he fell in love just like I did, and I thought, oh my gosh, imagine the look on his face when he's going to wake up in the morning and he's going to think
It's Christmas.
it's Christmas, or the model grew, the model I had grew, and it's in the garage.
You know, when people ask me what I do for a living and I tell them, sometimes they'll ask me, who buys these cars? So what was it about the movie and, what was it that made you want to buy this car and commit to it?
I think it's the whole time travel, like, what would it be like to time travel? And I kind of wanted to time travel back to when I was, I never went to the prom, no one asked me, but okay, now, knowing what I know now, wouldn't it be cool to go back and then just go out with that girl and just dump her? I'm just kidding.
When people ask me all the time, they go, if you had a time machine, what would you do with it? I would go back and see every awesome concert. I would go hang out at the Whiskey with Van Halen when they were nobody, or go see Led Zeppelin, go see Elvis.
Oh my gosh, Elvis. There you go.
Go see go see the Beatles, or something. Just go see all the great entertainers back when you could, because I got to miss a lot of that. I think that's what I would do.
Hang out with Steve Jobs in his garage.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I help
Hey
with
Steve,
that?
I got this great idea for this phone. But
can you imagine?
that would be a lot of fun. But what you're going to find now with this car is the amount of excitement and joy you're going to bring to people when you take this thing out. So I need to interview you again later after you've owned it for a while and you've taken it to a few shows, because whatever response you've ever had with your other show cars, I know you got some awesome cars. You got Lamborghinis, you got Porsches, you got the Christine car and these other cars. All that is on a scale about this tall compared to when you take this out. It's going to be nuts, absolutely nuts. So I can't wait to talk to you again when you call me up and go, oh man, you were right.
You're right, yeah.
I park this thing next to $1 million cars, Enzo Ferraris, Veyrons, and those guys just stand there and steam because
no one's looking at their cars.
like everybody's taking pictures of that DeLorean. I got a $1.2 million car. Doesn't matter. This thing will win every time. I'll take the Pepsi challenge with anything you bring down the block with the time machine. So.
I totally want to do like things with like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Like if there's
That'd be
someone
awesome.
out there that wants to, has always wanted their wish to just ride in one of these things. You know what? I would actually go out there, take a few hours of my day, and take them for a ride around the block.
I've done that. I've taken, I've picked up special people and taken them for rides, shown them for birthday parties, special events, things like that. Matter of fact, this very car, we took it to the man that owns the Marty McFly house that was used in the film, and his neighbors came out, and one of the neighbors had an autistic boy, and we let him get in the car, and I mean, he was just so excited. I mean, obviously in his mind, reality may be a little different,
Correct.
and for him to see something that he loves on screen,
He's
and to
touching
see
it.
it in touching it, and we were getting a little worried because we could not get him out of the car. We were afraid he was going to start having a real tantrum. He would not leave the car. So they were literally almost pulling him out of it. He got out and he hugged it like a teddy bear on the front. And we thought it was the sweetest thing ever. He was just so in love with the concept of this thing. He'd just never seen anything like it. And it was really heartwarming, you know, even though I was afraid he was about to rip the console out of the center.
Take it with him.
But, because he was strong. But he sure did love the car. And it's times like that you go, wow, that's why we do this stuff. You know, sometimes when we're toiling away, drilling and sanding and painting and everything, that's all stuff that's in the shop. But when you see it like this and out in public, thank you. Jack the mechanic kicking on this the leg. Yeah, it brings everything into a whole new light when you see it. And we were just at Universal Studios. We saw the newly restored A car, and they keep it in this big glass box, which is great. I wish it was down lower so you could see it a little closer. But we must have took a million pictures of it. And we were looking at it and everything. And when we left out of there, I said, you know, after comparing the two, I think we're doing a pretty good job on these cars. We've really gotten just stupid with the research. Like we sit and count the number of wires and the colors and the gauges, and we look at the book and we're like, okay, there's a zip tie here and it's facing that way, and a zip tie here. You know, it's like, you know, at what point do you go, oh, it doesn't matter? But
every picture you were sending me, I was looking at the stills.
Would people compare it?
And
yeah.
I was looking at he's got the right wire. Oh my gosh! And
just like the little clock on the dash.
Yeah, there it is.
It cracks me up how many people flip out over the smallest little details. Like, I'm like, I built this whole time machine, and they're like, wow, look, the Sports Almanac. And I'm like, oh, that's what you're excited about? the $20 book on the dash?
Yeah,
you know, forget about the car.
Well, look at the spectrum analyzer. I mean, it's work. It's like doing stuff. It's just
Yeah,
not sitting
you come
there.
around this way. What's really cool about it is, I don't know if I showed you this, but the faster you go, the bigger it gets. So it gets all excited when you start speeding up.
Oh,
So
really?
the speedometer, I'm ramping it up.
Oh, as you're driving.
Yeah,
it's
see
doing-
that?
Oh, that's right.
All right, and then what happens is when you go full on, pow. See, that's what happens during time
That's
travel.
right, because the speedometer right here is moving.
That's right. Darn, I just changed the date.
That's
We're going to have to reset your
We
times.
we just went right back in time.
But yeah, this thing actually responds to the speed of the car.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's that kind of stuff that I think makes the difference.
Yes.
You know, these aren't just a bunch of blinking lights. There's an integrated computer system where this drive switch controls everything. There's a motherboard in there, a computer system. This plugs into that. The plutonium gauges plug into it. The speedometer, the GPS module, the time circuits, all of that stuff is integrated in there. And it all comes on and works at the same time. Oh,
Plutonium,
right up
darn it.
plutonium.
Let's get some more banana peels.
Yeah, so even though this is a fusion car, we still have that plutonium
Just
gag
in
in there
case.
just because it's fun. But yeah, all of these things are integrated together, and that's just, I think that's what makes it work, because it's more than just a showpiece, it's more than just a piece of art, it's a fully functional prop.
It interacts.
Yeah, it's interactive, so that when you're driving it and you're listening to Huey Lewis and you're rocking out to the theme song, and you're driving, I mean, when you're driving down the road and you're like, nobody's around, and you start approaching 88 miles an hour, and you can see this thing lighting up in the glass, and your needles are moving, your times are changing. I mean, it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. It doesn't matter how old you get, no matter how nerdy people think you are. It's pretty cool when that happens.
I like the extra touches that you did, like the radio on top. It works. You
Yeah, it actually
wired
works.
into the Delorean sound
And you know what else
system.
is great about that? Not only does it work, we didn't alter the original DeLorean wiring. We extended the harness. So we never actually, I know this sounds corny because we've totally drilled a million holes in this car,
You didn't
but I
cut it.
preserved the original wiring harness. We didn't cut that, which is silly. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I mean, there's little touches like that. You know, you turn on the radio and it really works, and you can listen to,
Wow.
that's the
Cassettes.
original DeLorean radio.
I still
But
have
you put a
cassettes.
cassette adapter in there and hook it up to your iPod or iPhone, and it'll work just as well.
Wow. And I love this right here.
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome.
There you
Right
go.
there. I love that.
There, light it up
I
for
mean,
you.
personalized right there.
Put my little plate on there.
That is just. I mean, this is a car that I mean.
Try to be subtle with it. I don't want to be too.
I know, but you know what? I'm proud to own this car, and heck, I'll even wear one of the shirts.
Now, we'll make one especially and send it to you. You'll be an official Bob's Prop Shop team member from now on.
I mean, this is a car I've dreamed of, and like I said, when the movie came out, you know, I'm making what, you know, $10 an hour or whatever, but here it is. It's reality, and
Man, I was like a little kid when I saw this movie the first time, and people ask me all the time what my favorite scene was. And for me, it was when the car backs up at the end of part one and then lifts off the ground and flies away. That was my favorite shot of the whole movie and still is to this day. When I see that, I'm like, yeah, that's my favorite part. Never in a million years did I think that I would ever get to see one of these in person, much less build a dozen of them.
Yes.
And
I understand you got, you're going to be at a dozen coming up?
yeah, we got I already got number 12 and 13 already lined up, so.
It's 13, yeah, see, I like 13. That would be cool.
Yeah. 13, he was like, really, 13?
I don't want to wait.
Don't worry.
I'm happy. I am really happy.
This one's good. So, anyway,
I appreciate.
we've rambled on forever. I know you're going to love this thing, so
I
thanks.
do. I appreciate all the hard work and all the photographs and all the document. I mean, just everything that you've provided with the car. It's just amazing.
This one hurts. I'm in love with this one. It's like, I'm like,
and you showed me how it works.
I brought it here from Dallas all the way to California and put it right in your driveway. But we really, all of the staff, we really do love this car. We put so much time and effort into it. Myself, Jack, Omar, and everyone who worked on it, and all the time that went into it. Even though the assembly process was only a few weeks.
Yeah.
The garage light. There we go. Even though it's only a few weeks of assembly, there's really months and months of pre-assembly of all these different parts. Of casting them, sanding them, painting them, getting them ready. So many of the parts on here are replicated, which I wish we could get the originals. They're just not available.
They're not there.
Sometimes the replicas are better. Like, the original Flux boxes on the real car are made out of poplar wood. But these are made out of resin, and they're like they're solid. They're bolted on there really well. Under these plates are stainless steel bolts that go right through. That's the way this is here. Under these covers, if you ever needed to take them off, there's stainless steel bolts that go right into the fender. This is
beautiful. Look at that.
It's not, you could tow the car with that. And that's our philosophy on building things, because we know everybody who walks up to these things, they walk up to it and they start pulling on stuff, right? Pulling on stuff. So like every part has to have what I call a shake test. You should be able to shake the car with that part.
Wow.
If you can't do that,
it's not just glued on.
Yeah, it's not going to come off.
When you come back and half your time machine stuff will be gone.
Yeah, you should be able to grab any part of this car and shake it. And that's pretty much my test. Wow. If you can't do that with it, then it's not on there good enough. So.
Well, look at, not only did I get a DeLorean, but I got the most iconic automobile in history.
That's right. Well, I know you're going to love it, and we got to get back to Dallas and start building another one for the next fan. But
thanks again.
It was a real pleasure, doing the business with you, because you made it fun as a customer.
Well, you've got a place to hang your hat when you guys come out, Always do.
I saw the air mattress. I know. All right, don't forget about Bob's Prop Shop. Check out our Facebook at Bob's Prop Shop, and also online at bobspropshop.com.